You look around the room. You know it needs cleaning. You've known for days, maybe weeks. But something stops you every single time. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. And the mess just stays. This isn't laziness. It's something much deeper.
What if the clutter around you isn't a reflection of your character, but a signal from your nervous system? What if your brain is literally blocked from starting? In the next few minutes, everything you thought you knew about this is going to shift.
Psychology has a lot to say about why some people struggle to clean, and almost none of it is about laziness. It's about stress, shame, childhood patterns, and how your brain processes overwhelm. Let's go through 7 reasons. You'll probably recognize more than one.
Sign 1, nervous system shutdown. When your brain is in a state of chronic stress, it enters something called low-grade freeze. It's not dramatic. You're not paralyzed. You're just stuck. You can think about cleaning. You can plan it. You can even feel guilty about not doing it. But the moment you try to start, something shuts down. Neuroscientists call this executive dysfunction. The brain's ability to initiate tasks simply goes offline under prolonged pressure. And here's what makes it worse. The mess itself becomes an additional stressor, which deepens the freeze. It's not a character flaw. It's your nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you.
Sign 2, shame creates paralysis. There's a cruel irony at the heart of this. The more ashamed you feel about the mess, the harder it becomes to clean it. Shame doesn't motivate, it freezes. When you look at a cluttered room and your first thought is, "What is wrong with me?" your brain doesn't hear a call to action, it hears a threat. And it responds to threats by shutting down, avoiding, or distracting. The mess becomes proof of something you already feared about yourself, so you look away. You close the door. You tell yourself you'll deal with it later, because facing it means facing that feeling.
Sign 3, childhood environment as default setting. Your brain decided what normal looks like before you were old enough to question it. If you grew up in a chaotic or cluttered home, your nervous system calibrated to that environment. Disorder didn't feel wrong, it felt familiar. And familiar feels safe, even when it isn't. As an adult, you may unconsciously recreate that environment, not because you want to, but because it's the baseline your brain returns to under stress. Some people keep their homes immaculate for the same reason. Control was how they survived childhood. Either way, your relationship with clutter started long before you had any say in the matter. Sign 4, decision fatigue and mental load. Cleaning isn't one task, it's hundreds of micro decisions happening in rapid succession. Where does this go? Do I keep it or throw it out? What do I do with this pile? For a brain already running on empty, already making thousands of decisions every day about work, money, relationships, food, this is genuinely too much. Decision fatigue is real and well documented. By the time you get home at the end of the day, your prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, organizes, and initiates, is running on fumes. Cleaning requires exactly the mental resources you have the least of when you need them most.
We're halfway through, and if any of this is landing for you, good. That recognition is important, because most people who struggle with cleaning have spent years believing something was fundamentally wrong with them. They've tried the productivity hacks, the cleaning schedules, the motivational videos, and still the mess returns. What we're doing here is going deeper, looking at the roots, not the symptoms. The next signs get even more specific. Some of them might be uncomfortable, but understanding them is the first step towards something actually changing. Stay with me, because what comes next might be the piece you've been missing.
Sign 5. Depression and energy depletion. Depression doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks like a sink full of dishes that's been there for 2 weeks. Like laundry on the floor you've stepped over so many times you stopped seeing it. When depression is present, even at a low, functional level, the brain's reward system goes quiet. Things that should feel satisfying simply don't. The dopamine hit that a clean room should provide never arrives, so the motivation to create it never builds. Energy is rationed for survival. Everything beyond the bare minimum feels impossible, and the mess accumulates, quietly, steadily, as an external record of an internal exhaustion that nobody else can see.
Sign 6. ADHD and the invisible wall. For people with ADHD, diagnosed or not, there is something called the wall. You can see the task. You understand it needs to be done. You might even want to do it. But between intention and action, there is an invisible barrier that willpower alone cannot cross. ADHD affects the brain's dopamine regulation in ways that make boring, repetitive tasks like cleaning nearly impossible to initiate without external pressure or genuine interest. It's not about trying harder. The trying is already happening. What's missing is the neurological bridge between wanting and doing. And for millions of people, that bridge was never built the way it was for others. Sign 7. The mess as emotional container. This one is the least obvious and possibly the most important. For some people, clutter isn't just the result of not cleaning, it's serving a function. Psychologists have observed that physical mess can act as an unconscious emotional container, a way of externalizing internal chaos that has nowhere else to go. If your inner world feels overwhelming, unresolved, or out of control, your outer space may begin to mirror it. Cleaning, then, feels threatening because bringing order to the outside means confronting the disorder within. The mess becomes a kind of armor, invisible even to the person wearing it, until the day it becomes too heavy to carry. All 7 of these reasons share something in common. None of them are about laziness. None of them are about not caring. They are all, in different ways, about a nervous system doing its best under conditions it wasn't designed to handle indefinitely. Modern life produces chronic stress at a scale that is genuinely new in human history. We were not built for this volume of input, decision, pressure, and disconnection. The home, which should be a place of restoration, becomes instead another arena of failure, another thing we're not doing right. Understanding this doesn't fix everything, but it changes the conversation you have with yourself, and that matters. Think about how long you've carried this. The quiet embarrassment when someone calls unexpectedly, the way you close a door before anyone can see inside, the internal monologue that runs on loop. I should clean. Why haven't I cleaned? What is wrong with me? That voice has been loud for a long time, and it has been wrong for just as long. You were never lazy. You were overwhelmed. You were frozen. You were carrying more than anyone could see, including yourself. The mess was never the real problem. It was always the signal. And now, for the first time, you know what it was trying to tell you. So what do you actually do with all of this? First, stop trying to clean the whole space. That approach activates overwhelm immediately. Instead, pick one surface, one corner, one drawer. not because it will fix everything, but because your nervous system needs a small win to start rebuilding the connection between intention and action. Second, address the stress load, not just the mess. If your nervous system is in freeze, the clutter is a symptom. Treat the root: sleep, movement, less input. Third, notice the shame narrative and interrupt it. You are not your apartment. You are not your clutter. You are someone learning to understand themselves better.
Change in this area rarely looks dramatic. It doesn't happen because you finally found the right organizing system or watched the right video. It happens slowly as the underlying conditions shift. As stress decreases, even slightly, the nervous system softens. As shame loses its grip, action becomes possible again. Some people find that therapy, particularly somatic or trauma-informed approaches, creates more movement on this issue than any cleaning strategy ever did. That's not a coincidence. The body holds the freeze. In the body is where the thaw begins. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You just need one small thing to be different today than it was yesterday.
Take a moment right now. Seriously, just pause. Think about your own space, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Which of these 7 reasons felt true for you? Was it the nervous system shutdown, that low-grade freeze you've never had a name for before? Was it the shame spiral that makes starting feel impossible? The childhood baseline you never chose? Or something quieter? The clutter is armor. The mess is a mirror. You don't have to answer out loud, but knowing which route is yours changes everything about how you approach it. Self-knowledge isn't just interesting. In this case, it might be the most practical tool you have.
Let's bring it together. 7 reasons some people never clean, and not one of them is laziness. 1. Nervous system shutdown and executive freeze. 2. Shame that paralyzes instead of motivates. 3. Childhood environment as an unconscious default. 4. Decision fatigue from a brain already at capacity. 5. Depression quietly depleting every reserve. 6. ADHD and the invisible wall between intention and action. 7. Clutter as an emotional container for unresolved inner chaos. These aren't excuses, they are explanations, and explanations are where change begins. Not in the cleaning aisle, not in a new productivity app, but in the quiet moment when you finally understand what's actually been happening. If this video resonated with you, if you recognized yourself in more than one of these reasons, I'd really love to know. Drop a comment below. You don't have to write much, even just the number of the sign that hit closest to home. Because one of the things that makes this harder is the belief that you're the only one. You're not. This channel exists because these conversations matter, and because understanding yourself is one of the most meaningful things you can do. If this helped, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe if you want more of this kind of honest, grounded psychology content. Your space doesn't define you. Your struggles don't define you. What defines you is the willingness to look honestly at what's happening beneath the surface, and you just did that. That takes more courage than most people realize. Be patient with yourself as you move forward. Change in the nervous system is slow, but it's real. And every small act of self-understanding, like the one you just completed, builds the foundation for something different. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself today, even if that just means being a little kinder in the way you talk to yourself. That's enough. That's actually a lot. You keep waiting for someone to finally see you, to say the right thing,
to show up the way you need them to. But what if the thing you're waiting for is something you've never once given yourself?
Stay with this, because in the next few minutes, we're going to walk through 7 signs that you might be doing exactly that, expecting from others what you've quietly stopped giving to yourself. This one might sting a little. Psychologists call this projected need, when unmet inner needs get redirected outward as expectations. It's not manipulation, it's not weakness, it's what happens when we lose touch with our own ability to give ourselves what we most deeply need.
Sign 1. You feel disproportionate anger or hurt when people don't notice your efforts. A friend doesn't ask how you're doing. A partner doesn't acknowledge what you did. A colleague moves past your contribution without a word. And something inside you contracts. Here's the quiet truth underneath that reaction. When did you last genuinely acknowledge yourself? When did you last sit with something you did and say, "That was real, that mattered, I see it"? The anger at others for not seeing you is often loudest when you've gone the longest without seeing yourself. Their blindness hurts more because yours came first. Sign 2. You wait for someone else to say it's okay before you allow yourself to feel okay. You want your boss to confirm you did well. You want your partner to tell you you're enough. You want a friend to say, "Yes, your feelings make sense." Without that, you stay in a kind of holding pattern, suspended, not quite landing. But here's what that pattern is really asking. Why does the permission have to come from outside? Somewhere along the way, you stop trusting your own read on yourself, and so you outsource the verdict to anyone willing to give one.
Sign 3. You are generous, sometimes extraordinarily so, but there's a particular texture to your giving. You encourage others the way you wish someone would encourage you. You offer the patience you desperately want extended to you. You hold space for people the way you've never allowed yourself to be held. This isn't always conscious, but pay attention to the moments when your generosity feels almost compulsive, when you can't stop giving even when you're empty. That compulsion often traces back to one thing. If I give this to someone else, maybe I'll finally feel what it's like to receive it. We're halfway through, and I want to pause here, not to summarize, but to ask you something. Of the 3 signs so far, not being seen, waiting for permission, giving what you need, did any of them feel uncomfortably familiar? Because if they did, that's not a flaw in you. That's information. The brain builds these patterns for reasons. They made sense once. They were protective once. What we're doing right now is just bringing them into the light. Because a pattern you can see is a pattern you can actually work with. 4 more signs. Let's keep going. Sign 4. You feel hurt when people don't give you things you never actually asked for. You didn't say you needed support, but you expected it. You didn't express what you wanted, but you felt the absence sharply when it didn't appear. This is one of the most painful loops, expecting others to sense needs you haven't voiced, because voicing them feels too vulnerable, too risky, maybe even shameful. And beneath that is something worth sitting with. You've likely stopped asking yourself what you need too. If you can't name it to yourself, you certainly won't name it to anyone else. The silence runs in both directions. Sign 5. You accept far less than you deserve and quietly resent it. You stay in dynamics that feel thin, distant, underinvested, and part of you knows something is missing, but another part doesn't push back, doesn't ask for more, doesn't leave, because asking for more requires believing you're worth more, and that belief has to exist inside you first, before it can inform how you move through relationships. When you consistently give yourself the bare minimum of rest, of compassion, of care, your nervous system learns that's what you're worth, and then it becomes what you unconsciously accept from others too.
Sign 6. There's something you're looking for in connection, a particular feeling of being fully known, fully safe, fully accepted that you haven't found anywhere, and so you keep looking. In new relationships, in deeper conversations, in moments of closeness that almost reach it, but never quite do. The thing you're searching for isn't missing from the world. It's missing from your relationship with yourself. Not fully, not forever, but enough that you keep reaching outward for something that can only be built inward. Other people can add to that feeling. They cannot be its entire foundation. That's too much weight for any relationship to carry. Sign 7. Someone else checks in on you, and it genuinely moves you. But when you try to care for yourself, rest, boundaries, kindness towards your own mistakes, it feels hollow, performative, like it doesn't count unless it comes from outside. This is perhaps the most revealing sign of all, because it shows the deepest part of the belief that your own love for yourself isn't real enough, isn't valid enough, doesn't have the same weight as someone else's. But here's what's true. The most durable care you will ever receive has to originate inside you. Everything else is addition, not foundation.
These patterns don't form in a vacuum. Most of them trace back to early experiences where your needs were met or weren't met by people you depended on completely. When a child learns that love comes with conditions, or that needs go unacknowledged, or that asking for too much leads to disappointment, that child builds a system designed to get needs met indirectly, through performance, through giving, through silence, through endless patience. That system was intelligent once. It was survival. But you're not that child anymore. And the system is running in a context it was never built for. Your adult life, your adult relationships.
The cost of this pattern is significant, not just in relationships, though it shows up there sharply, but inside you. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from being surrounded by people and still feeling unseen. And that loneliness is hardest to name because from the outside, everything looks fine. You function, you give, you show up. But there's a quiet exhaustion underneath it all. The exhaustion of waiting, of hoping someone will finally give you what you haven't figured out how to give yourself. That wait can last a very long time, longer than it needs to. This doesn't require a complete reinvention of who you are. It starts smaller than that. Start by noticing, just noticing, the moments when you feel the pull toward external validation, when you're waiting for someone to say the thing, when you're giving in that compulsive way. Don't judge the pattern, just see it. Then ask yourself, what would it look like if I gave this to myself right now? Not perfectly, not all at once, but in some small, honest way. Acknowledgement, permission, patience, rest, belief. These aren't luxuries. They're not selfishness. They are the basic architecture of a relationship with yourself that can actually hold. Here's what's important to hold alongside everything we've covered. Needing others is not the problem. Humans are wired for connection.
Wanting to be seen, supported, loved, that's not weakness, that's biology, and it's beautiful. The shift we're talking about isn't from needing others to needing no one. It's from using others as a substitute for the relationship you haven't built with yourself, to letting genuine connection add to a foundation that already exists inside you. That foundation doesn't have to be solid before you start. It just has to be something you're actively building. And the fact that you're here, watching this, that's already a step.
Before we close, I want to leave you with something to sit with, not as homework, but as an invitation. Think of one thing you've been waiting for someone else to give you, one specific thing. Maybe it's acknowledgement of your effort. Maybe it's permission to rest. Maybe it's someone saying, "You're doing okay, you're enough, I see you." Now ask yourself, honestly, gently, what would it mean to try giving that to yourself this week? Not because you stop wanting it from others, but because you stop making their response the only thing that counts. That shift is small. Its effects are not.
7 signs you feel hurt when others don't notice what you've stopped acknowledging in yourself. You wait for external permission because you've stopped trusting your own. You give compulsively what you most need to receive. You expect unvoiced needs to be met because voicing them feels too exposed. You accept less because you give yourself less. You search in connection for what can only be built within. And you believe care from others counts in a way your own care never does. These 7 things point to one core truth. The relationship you're trying to find with others begins with the one you build with yourself.
If any part of this video felt like it was written about you specifically, you're not alone in that. This pattern shows up in some form in almost every person I've ever spoken with about it. It's one of the most quietly common human experiences there is. If this resonated, I'd love to know which sign hit closest to home. Drop it in the comments. And if you know someone who might need to hear this today, share it with them. Not as a hint, just as a gift. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of honest, grounded psychology content. See you next one.
Thanks for watching all the way through. That takes something, real willingness to look. Take care of yourself this week. And remember, the things you most want to receive, you're allowed to start giving them to yourself. You're standing right in front of someone. They just told you their name, and it's already gone, completely, like it was never there. You smile, nod, and pray they don't ask you to introduce them to anyone. This happens to almost everyone. And no, it doesn't mean you're rude, forgetful, or getting older. Your brain isn't broken. There are specific psychological reasons this keeps happening. And once you see them, everything starts to make sense.
Memory researchers have studied this for decades. What they found isn't what most people expect. Forgetting a name isn't about attention span or age. It's about how the brain processes social information in real time, and 8 very specific things that get in the way.
Sign 1. Cognitive overload at first contact. The moment you meet someone new, your brain is doing an enormous amount of work all at once. It's reading their face, assessing their tone, deciding how safe they feel, figuring out where to stand, what expression to wear, what to say next. All of this happens in the first few seconds, and right in the middle of all that, they tell you their name. The problem is, your working memory only holds so much at once. The name arrives at the exact worst moment, when every mental channel is already full. It doesn't get encoded. It just floats in and floats right back out. That's not carelessness. That's neuroscience.
Sign 2. You're not actually listening, you're preparing. Here's something most people won't admit. In the moment someone introduces themselves, you're not really listening, you're rehearsing. Your brain is already composing your own introduction, your name, your job, your handshake, your opening line. The name they just said lands in a space where nothing is ready to catch it. This is incredibly common, and it's not a character flaw. It's just the way the anxious social brain operates under pressure. It prioritizes output over input, preparation over reception. But the cost is real. You end the conversation having no idea what to call the person standing right in front of you.
Sign 3. No emotional hook attached. Memory is not a filing cabinet. It's a web of associations, and the stronger the emotional connection to a piece of information, the more likely your brain is to hold on to it. A name by itself, just a word, just a sound, gives the brain almost nothing to attach to. There's no story behind it, no feeling, no image, no meaning. Compare that to remembering the name of someone who once embarrassed you or helped you through something hard. Those names stick. When a name arrives completely neutral, in a neutral moment, the brain treats it as low priority. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means your memory works on emotion.
Sign 4. The social anxiety interference effect. For a lot of people, meeting someone new activates a quiet but powerful layer of anxiety. Will I say the right thing? Do I seem confident? Am I making eye contact? Too much? Too little? This internal noise doesn't just distract you, it actively competes with incoming information for the same cognitive resources. Anxiety and memory encoding use overlapping neural pathways. When one is firing hard, the other suffers. So the more nervous you are in a first meeting, the more genuinely difficult it becomes to hold on to anything they say, including their name. It's not social laziness, it's your nervous system doing what nervous systems do under perceived pressure. Sign 5. The name feels meaningless without context. Think about the names you remember easily. A childhood friend, a teacher who changed something in you, a name tied to a place, a story, a feeling. Now, think about a name you heard once at a networking event and never thought about again. The difference isn't the name, it's the context around it. Our brains are meaning-making machines. They store information inside frameworks, narratives, relationships, patterns. A name that arrives without any surrounding context is like a sentence with no beginning and no end. The brain files it loosely, and loose files get lost. Context is the scaffold that makes names stick. We're halfway through, and if any of this is landing, if you're recognizing yourself in these patterns, stay with me, because the next few reasons go deeper. They're less obvious, and honestly, more interesting. We're moving from the social surface into something more psychological. The kind of thing that explains not just why you forget names, but why certain interactions leave you feeling vaguely embarrassed or strangely disconnected, even when you did everything right. The brain is doing things in the background that most people never think to examine. That's what the second half of this video is about. Keep watching. This is where it gets real.
There are a few more important signs ahead, but if this resonates with you, subscribe to Mind Patterns so you don't miss our upcoming breakdowns on psychology and mental health.
Sign 6. You never repeat it, internally or out loud. There's a small but powerful habit that people who are good with names almost always share. The moment they hear a name, they use it. They repeat it back immediately. Great to meet you, Daniel. And then they say it again in their head. This act of repetition isn't just politeness, it's memory consolidation in real time. When you hear a name once and never revisit it, it sits in short-term memory with no reinforcement. Short-term memory is designed to clear. That's its job. Without repetition, allowed or internal, a name has almost no chance of making it into long-term storage. One pass is almost never enough.
Sign 7. Passive reception versus active encoding. Most people receive a name the same way they receive background noise, passively. It enters the ears, it registers for a fraction of a second, and then the moment moves on. But memory doesn't work through passive reception alone. It requires active encoding. That means doing something with the information, connecting it to a face, a feeling, an image, a word it rhymes with, a person you already know by that name. The brain stores what it processes, not what it merely hears. People who are brilliant with names aren't gifted. They've simply developed the habit of actively working with a name the instant they receive it. That habit is learnable.
Sign 8. The introduction moment is built wrong. Here's something worth stepping back to notice. The social ritual of introduction is, from a memory standpoint, almost perfectly designed to fail. Two people approach each other. Both are slightly nervous. Both are focused on themselves. Names are exchanged in a single rapid moment, with no pause, no reinforcement, no context. Then the conversation moves immediately forward, and the name is already buried under everything that comes after. Society teaches us to exchange names first, when memory conditions are at their absolute worst. It's not your fault. You were handed a broken system. Understanding that is actually the first step toward doing something different.
All 8 of these reasons point to the same underlying truth. Human memory was never designed for modern social performance. It evolved for survival, remembering threats, resources, faces of people in your tribe over years of shared experience, not for remembering a stranger's name in 30 seconds at a conference or a party. We've built a social world that demands something our biology wasn't optimized for. That gap between what memory does naturally and what social life now requires is where the frustration lives. The shame people feel about forgetting names is in many ways misplaced. You're not failing a basic human task. You're navigating a genuine mismatch.
The moment you realize you've already forgotten someone's name, and the conversation is still happening, is genuinely uncomfortable. There's a small internal panic, a quiet shame, a split second where you mentally weigh the cost of admitting it versus hoping no one notices. Most people choose silence. They maneuver around using the name, hoping it won't come up. And underneath all of it is a feeling that says, I should be better at this. That feeling is more common than you know. It doesn't mean you're socially broken. It means you're human, in a world that moves faster than memory was built to handle.
There are things that actually help. When you first hear a name, say it back immediately, out loud, naturally. Nice to meet you, Sarah. Then use it once more before the conversation ends. In your head, link the name to something, a visual, a rhyme, a person you already know with that name. Slow down the moment of introduction, even slightly. Give it a breath of space. And if you forget, just ask. I'm sorry, I want to make sure I have your name right. People are almost always moved by that. It signals that you actually care, which is the whole point.
The good news is that this is genuinely changeable, not through willpower or trying harder, but through small, consistent shifts in how you show up to the moment of meeting. Attention, repetition, association, intention. These are learnable. And here's the nuance worth holding on to. The fact that you're bothered by forgetting names says something real about you. Indifferent people don't worry about this. The discomfort is a signal that connection matters to you. That's not a flaw. That's a foundation. You're not starting from zero. You're starting from caring. And that's actually the most important ingredient in any skill that involves other people. Take a moment right now and think about the last time you forgot someone's name. What was happening in you during that introduction? Were you nervous, distracted, already composing what you were about to say? Were you running on empty, tired, overwhelmed, stretched thin? Most people, when they look honestly at the moment, realize they weren't really present. Not because they're careless, but because life had already taken most of what they had. Self-awareness is the beginning of change, not judgment. If you can see the pattern clearly, when it happens, what triggers it, you already have more power over it than you think. So let's bring it all together. You forget names because your brain is overloaded at first contact, because you're already preparing your own response, because the name arrives with no emotional hook, because anxiety is competing for the same mental bandwidth, because context is missing, because you don't repeat it, because you receive passively instead of encoding actively, and because the introduction ritual itself is poorly designed for memory. 8 reasons. None of them are character flaws. All of them are understandable, and every single one of them can be worked with once you see it clearly. Awareness doesn't fix everything, but it is always where change begins.
I'm curious about your experience with this. Do you tend to forget names immediately, like within seconds, or does it fade a few minutes into the conversation? Drop that in the comments. And if you found something that actually helps you remember names, a technique, a habit, a mental trick, share it. Someone reading right now could really use it. If this video gave you something to think about, subscribe. We go this deep every week on the psychology behind everyday experiences most people never stop to examine. Hit the like button if any of this felt true. It helps more people find it.
Memory is not about intelligence. It's not about how much you care about people. It's a system, an ancient, imperfect, deeply human system that sometimes struggles with the speed and complexity of modern social life. The fact that you stayed through this video tells me something about you. You're someone who wants to understand, not just perform. That's rare, and it matters. Be patient with yourself around this. Small, consistent efforts compound. Every time you say a name back, every time you pause to make a real connection in that first moment, it adds up. You're more capable of change than you've probably been told. You know someone like this. Maybe it's a family member, a childhood friend, or someone you used to know well. They joined a group, and slowly, without anyone forcing them, they stopped leaving. This video is about why.
We're not talking about cults and movies. We're talking about real communities, churches, movements, tight-knit spiritual groups, and 9 psychological mechanisms that make leaving feel genuinely impossible. Stay through all 9. The last one will surprise you.
Psychology doesn't ask whether a belief is true. It asks what keeps people inside a system. These 9 mechanisms aren't about manipulation by evil people. Most of them are completely natural. That's what makes them so powerful and so hard to see.
Mechanism 1. Identity fusion. When someone joins a close religious community, something quietly begins to shift. The group's identity starts merging with their own. It's not dramatic, it's gradual. The language changes first. We believe, our truth, our people. Then the stories change. Their personal history gets rewritten through the lens of the group. Before long, the question, "Who am I without this?" becomes genuinely terrifying. Psychologists call this identity fusion, when the boundary between self and group dissolves. Leaving doesn't just mean changing your beliefs, it means losing yourself. And the human brain treats that kind of loss the same way it treats death. That's not metaphor, that's neuroscience.
Mechanism 2, social capital lock-in. Imagine your closest friends are all in one place. Your support system, your weekly dinners, the people who show up when you're sick, all inside the group. Now imagine walking away from all of that at once. Not because anyone threatens you, just because leaving means losing everything social you've built over years. This is social capital lock-in. The community becomes the entire infrastructure of a person's life, and the cost of exit isn't just emotional, it's practical. Who do you call? Where do you belong? Humans are wired for belonging above almost everything else. That wiring doesn't care whether the group is healthy or not. Mechanism 3, cognitive dissonance management. Here's something counterintuitive. The more someone has sacrificed for a group, time, money, relationships, years of their life, the harder it becomes to leave. Not easier, harder. Because the brain cannot hold two things at once, the belief. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance reduction. The investment becomes the proof. The sacrifice becomes the evidence that the group must be right. It's not weakness. It's one of the most fundamental features of human cognition. The deeper you're in, the more the mind protects its own story. Mechanism 4, controlled information environment. Most religious communities don't ban outside information outright. They don't need to. What they do instead is subtler. They create a complete interpretive framework. Every outside idea gets filtered through group teachings. Criticism becomes spiritual attack. Doubt becomes a test of faith. Science becomes the world's deception. The person isn't locked in a room. They carry the room with them. Every new piece of information gets translated before it reaches them, and the translation always leads back to the same conclusion. When your entire interpretive system is provided by one source, you can't think outside it. The cage has no bars, just walls made of meaning.
You've just seen 4 mechanisms, and maybe you're already thinking of someone specific. Hold that thought, because the next 5 go even deeper. We're moving from the social and cognitive into something more primal: fear, love, time, and identity under threat. These are the mechanisms that explain why intelligent, thoughtful people stay in systems that outside observers can't understand. Not because they're weak, not because they're blind, but because the psychology is genuinely that powerful. The second half of this list is where it gets personal. And if you've ever asked yourself, why didn't they just leave? You're about to get your real answer.
Mechanism 5, fear of spiritual consequences. For someone raised inside a belief system, the threat of leaving isn't social or financial, it's existential. Eternal punishment, divine abandonment, spiritual death, these concepts are installed early and they run deep. What makes this mechanism so powerful is that the fear is entirely internal. Nobody has to threaten you. The threat lives in your own mind, in the voice that sounds like conscience. Neuroscience shows that existential fear activates the same brain regions as physical danger. The body responds identically. To someone genuinely inside that framework, leaving the group can feel, physiologically, neurologically, like stepping off a cliff. The danger isn't imagined,
It's experienced as completely real.
Mechanism 6. Love bombing and emotional debt. The beginning is almost always beautiful. Warmth, belonging, people who see you, really see you. New members often describe it as the most loved they've ever felt. This isn't accidental. Psychologists call it love bombing, an intense, overwhelming experience of acceptance designed, consciously or not, to create emotional attachment fast. And it works, because the love feels real. Often it is real, from people who genuinely believe. But the effect is the same, a deep sense of emotional debt. These people welcomed me. They were there for me. How could I betray them now? That gratitude becomes a leash, not held by anyone outside, held by the person themselves from the inside.
Mechanism 7. Sunk cost and temporal investment. 10 years, 20 years, sometimes an entire life. When someone has spent decades inside a community, the past itself becomes a reason to stay. Not the future, the past. Because if they leave now, what does that mean about everything before? Every prayer, every sacrifice, every choice made through the lens of that belief. All of it becomes retroactively uncertain. The sunk cost fallacy is one of the most documented patterns in behavioral economics, and it doesn't just apply to money. It applies to time, identity, and meaning. The longer someone has been inside, the more the past holds them there. Leaving means rewriting your entire life story. Most minds refuse.
Mechanism 8. Us versus them. Almost every tight-knit religious group creates, intentionally or not, a boundary between inside and outside, the saved and the unsaved, the awakened and the asleep, the chosen and the world. This isn't always hostile. Sometimes it's gentle. We just see things differently. But the psychological effect is the same. The outside world becomes foreign. People who haven't shared the group's experience start to feel genuinely difficult to connect with. And over time, the inside becomes the only place that feels real. When you leave, you're not just changing communities, you're crossing into enemy territory, even if no one ever called it that. The framing does the work silently, over years.
Mechanism 9. Meaning architecture. This is the deepest mechanism of all. Religious communities don't just offer rules or rituals. They offer something the human mind craves more than almost anything. A complete explanation of why you exist, why you suffer, what your life means, and what happens when it ends. Psychologists call this a meaning system. And once a person's entire sense of purpose is built on a particular foundation, removing that foundation doesn't just change their beliefs, it collapses the architecture. Who am I? Why does anything matter? What was all the suffering for? These questions are unbearable in a vacuum. Staying isn't about fear of the group. It's about terror of the void that would remain.
None of these 9 mechanisms require bad intentions. That's the part most people miss. The leaders don't need to be manipulative. The members don't need to be naive. These are patterns that emerge naturally from the intersection of human psychology and tight community structures. They appear in political movements, sports fandoms, intense therapy groups, even some workplaces. Religion provides particularly fertile ground because it combines social belonging, existential meaning, and identity all in one place. Understanding this doesn't mean all religious communities are harmful. Most aren't. It means recognizing that powerful psychological forces operate inside any system where belonging, belief, and identity become inseparable. The mechanisms are human. The context shapes their intensity.
If you've been watching this and feeling something specific, maybe recognition, maybe grief, maybe relief that someone is finally naming this, that reaction is important because this isn't abstract for a lot of people. Some of you grew up inside systems like this. Some of you are still inside them, watching this quietly, alone. Some of you watched someone you love disappear into one and never fully come back. That experience of being held somewhere not by walls, but by the invisible architecture of the mind, is one of the loneliest things a person can carry. You're not crazy for not understanding it. It was genuinely hard to understand because it was designed to be.
If any of this feels personal, whether you're inside a system, leaving one, or supporting someone who is, a few things matter. First, understanding the mechanism is already power. You can't dismantle what you can't name. Second, exits from high-belonging systems almost always require a replacement for what the group provided: community, meaning, identity, structure. Without those replacements in place, leaving creates a vacuum that often pulls people back. Third, judgment doesn't help, neither from outside nor from within yourself. People stay because the psychology is genuinely powerful, not because something is wrong with them. Compassion for others and for yourself is where any real movement begins.
Here's what's worth saying clearly. Belonging is not the problem. Meaning is not the problem. Community, ritual, shared belief, these are some of the most powerful sources of human well-being that psychology has ever documented. The question is never whether a community provides these things. The question is what it costs to leave. A healthy community makes exit possible. It might be painful, goodbyes always are, but it doesn't require you to lose your mind, yourself, or your past. The presence of these 9 mechanisms doesn't automatically make a group dangerous, but their intensity, their combination, and especially their resistance to questioning, that's where the psychology becomes worth watching carefully.
Before we wrap up, one question worth sitting with. Every one of these 9 mechanisms exists in milder form in groups you probably don't question: your political tribe, your professional identity, your family of origin, your closest friend group. The same forces, identity fusion, social capital, sunk cost, meaning architecture, operate everywhere humans form deep belonging. The difference is usually degree. So the real question isn't, am I in a cult? The real question is, in the communities that matter most to you, could you leave if you needed to? Not would you want to, could you? That answer tells you something important about where you actually stand.
9 mechanisms. Identity fusion, when leaving means losing yourself. Social capital lock-in, when your entire life is inside the group. Cognitive dissonance, when sacrifice becomes proof. Controlled information, when the cage is made of meaning. Fear of spiritual consequences, when the threat lives inside your own mind. Love bombing, when gratitude becomes a leash. Sunk cost, when the past holds you in place. Us versus them, when the outside world becomes foreign. And meaning architecture, when the group holds the answer to why you exist. None of these require villains. All of them are deeply human, and all of them become easier to navigate once you can see them clearly.
If this video made you think of someone, a person you've been trying to understand, a version of yourself you're still making sense of, drop it in the comments. Not to judge, just to say, I saw this too. These conversations matter more than most people realize. And if you want to go deeper, we've covered the psychology of money, decision-making, fear, and identity on this channel. The same invisible forces show up everywhere. Subscribe if that's the kind of thinking you want more of, and share this one with someone who's been quietly asking why. Sometimes the right explanation is the thing that finally helps.
Psychology doesn't tell you what to believe. It tells you how belief works, how it forms, how it holds, and how it can change. The 9 mechanisms in this video aren't indictments, they're maps. And maps are only useful if you're willing to look at where you actually are. If this gave you language for something you've been living without words for, that's enough. That's the whole point. Take care of the people around you. Stay curious about the systems you're inside. And remember, understanding why something is hard doesn't make you weak. It makes you someone who's actually paying attention. See you in the next one.
You smile. You show up. You function. To everyone around you, you seem fine, maybe even strong. Maybe you're the one people come to with their problems because nothing seems to break you. But late at night, when the world gets quiet, there's something underneath, a heaviness you can't quite name, a distance between you and your own feelings that you've learned to call being okay. What if that distance isn't strength? What if it's survival? Today, we're talking about the quiet, invisible ways trauma lives inside a person long after the events are over. The signs that your nervous system, your heart, your whole way of being in the world has been shaped by carrying too much for too long. This isn't about weakness. This is about finally seeing yourself clearly.
Stay with me until sign number 5, because that one is the one almost no one connects to trauma. It looks like a personality trait. It feels like just who you are, but it's not who you are. It's what happened to you.
Trauma isn't only what happens in dramatic moments. It isn't only war, disaster, or a single cataclysmic event. Trauma is what happens inside you when something overwhelms your capacity to cope, and you had no choice but to keep going anyway. It can be a childhood where love was unpredictable, a relationship that slowly dismantled your sense of self, years of chronic stress with nowhere to put it, a loss no one took seriously enough, an accumulation of smaller wounds, each survivable alone, but together profound. Psychologists now understand that trauma lives in the body, in the nervous system, in the automatic patterns that form when we're trying to survive something that shouldn't have been ours to survive alone. The signs we're exploring today are not character flaws. They are adaptations, the exhausting ways your system found to keep you functioning through things that were genuinely hard. Seeing them clearly is about understanding yourself with the same compassion you'd offer someone you deeply love.
Sign number 1, you cannot fully relax because some part of you is always scanning. Even in moments that are objectively safe, a quiet evening, a good day, a peaceful morning, there's a low-level alarm running in the background, an internal radar sweeping the horizon for the next threat, a sense that calm is only the pause before the next difficulty. This is called hypervigilance. For many trauma survivors, it doesn't feel like anxiety. It feels like being realistic, like being prepared. But here's what's actually happening. Your nervous system learned at some point that safety was temporary and threats were real. So it built a monitoring system, a permanent watch. And that system, designed to protect you, is now running constantly, even when there's nothing to watch for. The exhaustion is profound. Not just the exhaustion of the watching, but the inability to rest, to receive good things without bracing, to trust that this particular calm might be allowed to last. If you're waiting for the other shoe to drop, even when both shoes are firmly on the floor, that is not pessimism. That is the imprint of a nervous system that learned to protect you in the only way it knew how.
Sign number 2. You second-guess yourself constantly, and often on the deepest level. Not just small decisions. You second-guess your perceptions of reality. You have a feeling and immediately wonder if it's wrong. Someone treats you poorly, and you spend hours wondering if you misread it. Something feels off, and you convince yourself you're being dramatic. For many people who've experienced trauma, particularly relational trauma, or environments where their reality was consistently denied, the capacity to trust one's own inner experience has been genuinely damaged. Gaslighting, being told you were too sensitive, being laughed at for feeling things, being the only one naming what was happening, and being told you were wrong. Over time, you learned your perceptions were unreliable, your feelings were too big, too wrong, too inconvenient, and so you built the habit of checking them against external reality before allowing yourself to trust them. This is one of trauma's most quietly devastating effects. When you cannot trust your own perceptions, you cannot fully know yourself. And not knowing yourself is a particular kind of loneliness. Your feelings are real. They always were.
Sign number 3. You want closeness, genuinely, and yet something in you resists it, sabotages it, or finds reasons why this particular person cannot be trusted with the real you. Intimacy is the experience of being truly known, your fears, your failures, your unguarded self, and being met with something other than rejection. For someone hurt inside relationships, or who trusted and was abandoned, or who was loved in ways that also caused pain, intimacy carries a charge that safety does not. Your body remembers, not intellectually, physically. The closer someone gets, the louder a quiet alarm sounds, not because this person has given you a reason, but because closeness itself has been a place where damage occurred. This creates one of trauma's most painful paradoxes. You may want nothing more than deep connection, and simultaneously do everything, unconsciously, to keep people at the exact distance where they can't hurt you. You might deflect with humor when conversations go deep. You might pick fights at moments of genuine closeness. You might stay just slightly unavailable. This is not a character flaw. This is a wound in the place where trust lives, and wounds in that place, with the right care, do heal.
Sign number 4. People sometimes express shock at what you've endured, and genuinely, you don't understand why, because from the inside, it didn't feel like too much. It felt like life. When your baseline for normal is set by painful early experience, a home with unpredictability, a relationship with cruelty, a childhood where certain suffering was simply the weather, your internal calibration for acceptable shifts dramatically. Things that others find immediately alarming feel ordinary to you. Behavior that would be a clear line for someone with a different history feels manageable or familiar, something you should be able to handle. This recalibrated tolerance can make you repeatedly vulnerable to situations that echo early experiences, not because you want to be there, but because they feel on some cellular level like home. The cruelty of this sign is that your capacity to endure, which was genuinely a survival skill, can become the thing that keeps you in places you deserve to leave. Your pain deserves to be taken seriously, not because it was the worst pain anyone has ever felt, but because it was yours, and it was real.
We're halfway through, and if any of these signs have landed somewhere specific in your chest, I want you to stay, because the next 4 go even deeper. They live in the places that don't announce themselves as trauma. They show up disguised as personality, as habit, as simply the way you are. Sign number 5 especially. It might change something about how you understand yourself.
Sign number 5, and this is the one that surprises people most. You ask yourself,
how do I feel about this? And there's a pause, a reaching. Sometimes nothing comes, or what comes is so muted, so filtered, it barely resembles a feeling at all. This is called emotional numbness, or clinically, alexithymia, difficulty identifying and describing one's own emotional states. It develops as a protective response, when feelings were too large to contain, too dangerous to express, or met with punishment or dismissal. The system found a way to turn down the volume, to place feelings at a distance where they couldn't overwhelm you. And it worked. In the moment, in the environment that required it, it worked. But it continues afterward. You might intellectualize your pain instead of feeling it, explaining your sadness academically while remaining strangely untouched by it. You might read others' emotions with profound accuracy while remaining uncertain of your own. You might only discover what you feel days later when something else triggers the feeling that had nowhere to go at the time. This is not emptiness. This is protection that has outlived its emergency. Your feelings are still there, waiting, patient, for a safe enough place to be felt.
Sign number 6. Other people's emotions land on you with a weight and urgency others don't seem to experience. Someone in the room is unhappy, and your body responds before your mind does. You feel it. You begin managing it. You adjust your behavior to navigate around it, resolve it, or prevent it from escalating. You became responsible for other people's feelings long before you had the development or the right to carry that responsibility. In families where a parent's emotional state was unpredictable, where the child's job was to manage the temperature of the room, this hyper-awareness develops as survival. You learned to read the air, to sense the shift before it became a storm, and you were remarkably good at it. The cost is that this skill never turned off. You are still reading every room, still bracing for every shift, still making yourself smaller, quieter, more pleasing, not because you want to, but because some part of you still believes that if you do it right enough, you can keep everyone safe. The child who learned to manage the room deserves to know it was never your job, and you are allowed to put it down.
Sign number 7. Things start going well, real, genuine well. A relationship is deepening, a project is succeeding. Life is actually going in the direction you wanted. And then, quietly, something shifts. You pick a fight. You stop trying. You make a decision you know, on some level, will complicate everything. This is one of trauma's most confusing signatures, and the one that causes the most self-recrimination. Because from the outside, it looks like self-destruction, and from the inside, it feels like failure. But what's actually happening? Your nervous system does not recognize safety as safe. It recognizes it as the unfamiliar, and the unfamiliar, in the vocabulary of trauma, means potential danger. The chaos, the struggle, the tension, those feel like home. The calm feels like something that will be taken away. So the system moves unconsciously to recreate what it knows, because at least what it knows is survivable. Self-sabotage in the context of trauma is not stupidity or weakness. It is the nervous system trying to protect you from a hope it's afraid to trust. Learning to let good things stay, to believe they're allowed to be yours, is one of the quietest and most radical acts of healing.
Sign number 8. You live primarily from the neck up. You're more aware of what's happening in your mind than your body. Physical sensations may feel distant or difficult to locate. You push through hunger, exhaustion, pain, without noticing until they're impossible to ignore. You might look back on a day and realize you don't know if you were cold, or warm,
or tense or at rest. This disconnection, called dissociation on a spectrum or chronic disembodiment, is one of the body's most elegant responses to overwhelming experience. When what's happening in the body is too painful or too beyond control, the self learns to leave, not physically, psychologically, to find a place in the mind where what's happening to the body can be observed from a safer distance. This was an act of extraordinary self-preservation. But the body remains the place where life is actually lived, where pleasure is felt, where safety must eventually be learned to live. And being absent from it means being absent in some profound way from your own experience of being alive. Returning to the body, gently, at your own pace, with support, is not a performance of wellness. It is the slow, real work of coming home.
Something important needs to be said clearly. Not everyone who experiences these signs has experienced what we would clinically define as trauma. Human beings exist on a spectrum of sensitivity and resilience, and the same experience can affect two people very differently. This is not about competing for who suffered most. It's not about deciding whether what you went through was bad enough to count. If something left a mark on you, if your nervous system was shaped by experiences that overwhelmed your capacity to cope, then those experiences mattered, full stop. There is no trauma Olympics, no threshold you must have crossed to understand yourself through this lens. What matters is whether seeing yourself through these signs brings you something useful, understanding where confusion was, compassion where self-criticism lived, clarity where blame found its way inward. These signs are not a diagnosis, they are a language. And sometimes finding the right language for your own experience is the beginning of everything.
The hardest part of understanding trauma's effects is not the dramatic ones. Those, at least, announce themselves. The hardest part is looking at the ordinary details of your life, the way you brace in good moments, the way you disappear from rooms without leaving them, the way you hold everyone else's feelings while losing track of your own, and recognizing these were never just your personality, they were strategies, the most resourceful, intelligent, creative responses available to you in the environment you were in. You were not broken, you were adapting. And here's what's complicated and worth sitting with. The strategies that kept you safe are not the same strategies that will allow you to live fully now. The distance that protected you also distances you from joy. The vigilance that kept you prepared also keeps you from rest. The numbness that made pain survivable also muffles delight. Recognizing this is not a failure. It is the moment where survival begins slowly to become a life.
So what do you do with this? First, receive this information gently. This is not a list of what's wrong with you. It is a map of what happened to you. Maps are useful. They help you understand where you are. Second, consider finding a therapist who specializes in trauma. Trauma-informed therapists trained in EMDR, somatic therapy, or internal family systems understand that healing trauma is not primarily about talking through what happened. It's about helping your nervous system learn that it's safe to be present. Third, be patient with yourself. The patterns we discussed weren't formed in a day and won't dissolve in a day. Healing from trauma is not linear. There will be periods of clarity and periods of confusion. Both are part of the process. Fourth, notice the moments when you feel present, connected, and at ease, even briefly. These are your nervous system practicing something new. Feed those moments. And fifth, don't do this alone.
trauma often happened in isolation, and healing tends to happen in the presence of safe connection, a therapist, a trusted person, a support community. You were not designed to carry this alone.
Here is what neuroscience, psychology, and real human experience all confirm. The brain changes. It is not fixed. The patterns described in this video, the hypervigilance, the emotional numbing, the disconnection, the self-sabotage, are not permanent conditions. They are learned adaptations, and what was learned can, with time and support, be transformed. Healing from trauma does not mean returning to a version of yourself that existed before. Healing is not a return. It is a becoming, a fuller, more integrated version of yourself that carries the history without being defined by it. People heal from profound trauma every day. Not all the way, not all at once, not without setbacks, but genuinely, meaningfully, in ways that change the texture of their daily lives. You are not too damaged. You are not too far gone. You are not the exception to the possibility of healing. Your nervous system is plastic. Your heart is resilient. And the part of you watching this video, trying to understand yourself a little better, that part has always been moving toward the light.
Before we close, I want to invite you to one quiet question. Not a diagnostic question, not something that demands an answer right now. Just this: when did you first learn that you had to manage alone? You don't have to go looking for a specific memory. It's led just by anyone who might recognize these signs in you, but by you. If something in this video named something you've been carrying without a name, I hope it brings you the relief that comes with language, with being seen. You are not alone in this, not even close.
Let's walk through what we covered. The 8 signs you've been through too much trauma. 1. You're always waiting for something to go wrong, even when everything is fine. 2. You struggle to trust your own perceptions and feelings. 3. Intimacy feels unsafe, even when you genuinely want it. 4. You have a high tolerance for things that should be unacceptable. 5. You struggle to know what you actually feel. 6. You feel responsible for everyone else's emotional state. 7. You self-sabotage when things are genuinely going well. 8. You are profoundly disconnected from your own body. If you recognized yourself in 3 or more of these, please take that seriously. Not as evidence that something is wrong with you, as evidence that something happened to you, and that you deserve support.
I want to ask you something in the comments. Which of these signs felt most like being recognized? Just the number, or a word, or a sentence, whatever feels right. Because I think there are people watching this right now who have never heard these things named before, who have spent years believing the way they move through the world, the bracing, the distance, the vigilance, is simply who they are. And if one comment shows them they are not alone in it, that matters. That is the opposite of what trauma does, which is isolate. If this video helped you, please share it with someone who might need it. You might be giving them language for something they've been living without words for years. If you're new here, subscribe and stay. Each week we go into these territories together, with honesty, with care, and with the belief that understanding ourselves more fully is always worth the effort.
You have carried a great deal, perhaps more than anyone around you fully knows, perhaps more than you've ever let yourself fully acknowledge. Whatever happened to you, you found a way through. That matters. That is not nothing. And the part of you that is still here, still trying to understand, still willing to look, that part is the beginning of everything that comes next. Take good care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.
You didn't choose your first lessons about money. You were a child, And long before you earned your first dollar, money was already teaching you things through conversations you overheard, through silences, through what your parents fought about at night, through the feeling in the room when the bill arrived. You absorbed all of it, not as lessons, as truth. And now, decades later, you're making financial decisions as an adult, but the framework you're using was built by a child in a house with the information available at the time. Today, we look at 7 signs your childhood gave you a toxic relationship with money and what it means to begin changing it.
Stay until sign number 4, because that one doesn't feel like a money issue at all. It feels like a personality trait. It feels like simply who you are. But it started somewhere, and it started early.
Every family has a money culture, not a financial plan, a culture, unspoken beliefs, emotional associations, behavioral patterns around money transmitted from one generation to the next. Not deliberately, through proximity, through watching how adults in your world related to earning, spending, saving, in talking or not talking about money. Toxic money beliefs rarely announce themselves as beliefs. They feel like facts, like simply the way things are, like the obvious truth about what money means and what having or not having it says about you. The 7 signs today are not character flaws. They are the logical results of specific childhood money experiences. Seeing them clearly is not about blame. It is about finally understanding the framework so you can choose whether to keep using it.
Sign number 1. You grew up in a home where money was a source of regular stress, conflict, or tension. Maybe explicit, arguments through walls, conversations that stopped when you walked in, silence when the bill arrived. Maybe more subtle, a persistent low-level household anxiety you learned to read precisely. Either way, you learned something. You learned that money is dangerous, that money is a source of pain, that when money enters the conversation, tension follows. That understanding is still running, in the anxiety that surfaces when you look at your account, in the charge that money conversations carry, even healthy ones, that other conversations don't. The home you grew up in is no longer your financial reality, but its nervous system signature often is.
Sign number 2. Somewhere in your childhood, you absorbed the message that wanting more, financially, materially, ambition-wise, was wrong. Maybe explicit, money is the root of all evil, rich people are greedy. Maybe implicit, a family culture where ambition was viewed with suspicion, where success felt like a betrayal of your roots. The result? When wanting more is wrong, you cannot pursue financial growth without feeling somewhere underneath that you're doing something morally suspect, that you're becoming greedy, that you're leaving behind the people you came from. This creates a ceiling that isn't financial, it's moral. And the cruelty of this sign is that it doesn't feel like a limiting belief, it feels like integrity. It's worth asking, is this your values, or is this fear wearing the clothes of values?
Sign number 3. In your childhood home, money was not just money, it was communication. In some families, money was control, withheld as punishment, given as reward, used to create dependency. The message received early: money is power, and power belongs to whoever holds it. In other families, money was love. Gifts replaced presents. Spending
replaced conversations. The child learned that love looks like money, that care is expressed through things. The adult from a control money home often develops complicated feelings about financial dependency. The adult from a love money home often spends emotionally, buying things when they need connection, giving excessively when they want to feel loved. Neither is a character flaw. Both are the logical result of learning in childhood that money means something beyond what it can buy.
Sign number 4, and this is the one that surprises people most. You manage your finances, you make decisions, you handle your accounts, and yet a real, honest, open conversation about money feels deeply uncomfortable. With your partner, with your family, with a financial advisor. Because in many homes, money was simply not discussed. It was private, it was shameful, it was dangerous, and the child absorbed the rule. Money is not something we talk about openly. That rule, received before you could evaluate it, is still governing your adult financial conversations, keeping potential partners honest, keeping you from asking for help when you need it, keeping you isolated inside your own financial experience. The silence around money is rarely neutral. It is inherited, and inherited silence has a cost.
4 signs in, and if any of these have landed somewhere specific, stay. Because the next 3 go to the places childhood money experiences hide most successfully. Sign number 6 especially. It shows up in the most generous, caring people, and it has nothing to do with selfishness. Sign number 5. When it comes to money, you go to one extreme or the other. Either you hold it so tightly that spending feels physically painful regardless of what you can afford, or it flows through your hands almost immediately, as if having money in the account is somehow more uncomfortable than not having it. Both patterns trace to the same childhood origin. Money was unpredictable. Either there was never enough, or what there was could disappear without warning, and the child's nervous system built a response. Either grip everything so nothing can be lost, or spend quickly before it's taken. The hoarder is still trying to prevent the scarcity they felt. The spender is still trying to release the anxiety that accumulation triggers, because in their experience, money and safety were never reliably connected. 2 opposite behaviors, one origin, the childhood home where money felt inherently unstable.
Sign number 6. You have more than your parents had, maybe significantly more, and instead of feeling proud, you feel guilty. This is one of the least discussed and most quietly devastating effects of childhood money experience. When you surpass the financial level of the people who raised you, something in you feels like a betrayal, like you've stepped outside the family, like success puts a distance between you and where you came from that can't quite be crossed back. You might unconsciously sabotage your own financial progress to stay within a range that feels loyal. You might minimize your success in conversation. You might give excessively to family members, not from pure generosity, but from the need to maintain connection by pulling others up to where you are, or by pulling yourself down to where they are. This is not selfishness in reverse. This is loyalty to a financial identity that was formed in childhood, that still feels like home, even when home was a difficult place to be.
Sign number 7. You believe, somewhere underneath everything,
that when you have enough money, the feeling will stop. The anxiety, the unworthiness, the sense that you are one unexpected event from everything falling apart. The background hum of not quite enough, not quite safe, not quite okay. You believe that a certain number will finally silence it. This is perhaps the most important sign of all, because it is the one that keeps people running longest and arriving least. The number keeps changing. The feeling doesn't respond to the account balance. The safety that was promised at each financial milestone doesn't arrive. Because the feeling was never actually about money. It was about a childhood that didn't provide enough safety, enough stability, enough consistent okayness. And no account balance can retroactively provide what a childhood didn't. Healing that feeling requires something money cannot buy.
Before we go further, something important. Everything we've covered today describes patterns, not destinies. And the people who passed these money beliefs onto you were themselves working from frameworks they inherited. Very few people sit down and decide to give their children a difficult relationship with money. They were doing what they knew, with what they had, inside the financial and emotional realities of their own lives. This is not about blame. It is about seeing clearly. The most useful thing you can do with this information is not to build a case against your past. It is to identify what you're working with, so you can consciously, deliberately choose different.
Here is what is rarely said about childhood money wounds. They are not just financial. They live in the body, in the tightening when a bill arrives, in the specific shame of a financial conversation, in the hollowness of reaching a goal and feeling nothing, in the exhaustion of running toward a number that keeps moving. These are not personality traits. These are the residue of a child's experience in an environment that taught specific and often painful things about what money means. You have been managing this residue alongside every financial decision you've ever made, without knowing it was there, without having language for it, without anyone telling you that the way you feel about money has a history, and that history is not the same as the truth. So where do you begin? Childhood money beliefs are not life sentences. They are frameworks, and frameworks, once seen clearly, can be updated. Not overnight, not without effort, but genuinely, measurably, in ways that change not just financial behavior, but the felt experience of money, the way it feels in the body, the charge it carries in conversations, the ease or difficulty of making decisions from a place of clarity rather than old fear. People do this work every day. People who grew up in homes of genuine financial chaos learn to experience genuine financial stability, not just in their accounts, but in their nervous systems. People who were taught that wanting more was wrong learn to pursue their financial potential without the accompanying guilt. The child who learned those first money lessons did not have a choice about what they learned. The adult you are now does.
One quiet question before we close. What is the earliest memory you have? Not necessarily a specific event, but a feeling connected to money in your childhood home. Not what you think about money now, what you felt then. As a child in a specific home with specific adults in a specific financial atmosphere.
Let it come without judgment. Whatever arrives, the tightness, the shame, the excitement, the fear, the confusion, is information. It is the beginning of the thread that runs from then to your financial present. You don't have to solve it today, but you deserve to see it clearly.
The 7 signs your childhood gave you a toxic relationship with money. 1. Money was a source of conflict or tension in your home. 2. You were taught that wanting more was wrong. 3. Money was used as a tool of control or love. 4. You can't talk about money comfortably with anyone. 5. You either hoard money or can't hold on to it. 6. You feel guilty having more than your parents did. 7. You believe money will solve the feeling underneath the fear. If 3 or more of these resonated, this is not about what's wrong with you. It's about what was handed to you and what you now have the opportunity to examine, understand, and begin to change. You don't have to solve it today, but you deserve to see it clearly.
I want to hear from you. Which of these 7 signs felt most like recognition? Drop the number in the comments, or a word, whatever feels right. Because I believe there are people watching this who have managed money their whole adult lives without ever connecting their financial patterns to their childhood home, who have blamed themselves for every financial struggle without knowing the framework they were working from. If this video helped you see something, share it with a sibling who grew up in the same house, with a friend whose relationship with money you recognize in these signs. And if you're new here, subscribe. Every week, we go beneath the surface of the decisions we think we're making freely. You don't have to solve it today, but you deserve to see it clearly.
The first money lessons you received were not your fault. You were a child. You learned what you were shown. You absorbed what was in the air. You built a framework from the materials available. That framework served you then. It got you here. And here, for the first time, you can look at it clearly, decide what to keep, decide what to set down. That is not a small thing. Take good care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.
You leave the conversation and you're exhausted. Not tired from work, not tired from a long day, just drained, like something was taken from you. And you can't quite explain it because nothing obviously bad happened. They didn't yell, they didn't insult you, but you feel emptied out in a way that takes hours to recover from. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you.
We're going to go through 8 specific signs that the people around you might be energy vampires. Not metaphorically, psychologically. And some of these signs are going to be uncomfortable because a few of them might describe someone you love. Stay with me.
Energy vampires aren't monsters. They're people, often deeply wounded people, who have learned, consciously or not, to regulate their own emotional world by feeding off yours, your attention, your reassurance, your time, your emotional labor. They don't necessarily mean harm, but the effect is the same. You give, they take, and over time, you start to disappear a little.
Sign 1. Every conversation is about them. You notice it slowly at first. You start to say something real, something that matters to you.
And within 30 seconds, the conversation has rotated back to them. Their problems, their stories, their needs. It's not occasional, it's the pattern. Every single time. You leave these conversations having shared nothing and somehow having given everything.
Sign 2. They create drama wherever they go. Peace makes them uncomfortable. Silence makes them anxious. So without always realizing it, they manufacture tension. A misunderstanding here, a conflict there, a crisis that needs your immediate attention. And you find yourself constantly managing the fallout, always on alert, always one step away from the next emergency. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern.
Sign 3. They guilt trip instead of asking directly. They never simply ask for what they need. Instead, they sigh heavily. They make comments. They go quiet in a specific way that makes you feel like you've done something wrong. And somehow, you end up apologizing, accommodating, giving, without them ever having to ask. It's a form of emotional manipulation, subtle enough to miss, consistent enough to matter.
Sign 4. You feel responsible for their emotional state. When they're upset, you feel it as your problem to fix. When they're unhappy, you feel guilty even if you did nothing wrong. Somewhere along the way, the line between their feelings and your responsibility got erased. And now you're carrying two people's emotional weight, yours and theirs, all the time.
Those first 4 signs are the most common, but the next 4, these are the ones people miss because they're quieter, more subtle, and in some ways more damaging. Keep watching.
Sign 5. They never celebrate your wins. You share good news and something strange happens. They change the subject. They find the problem in it. They make it about their own struggle. Or they go just slightly cold in a way you can feel but can't prove. Energy vampires struggle to genuinely celebrate others because your success reminds them of their own pain. So instead of joy, you get nothing. Or worse, you get undermined. Sign 6. You edit yourself around them. You catch yourself before you speak. You decide not to mention that thing. You downplay your mood, your excitement, your opinion, because experience has taught you that being fully yourself around this person costs something. That's not a relationship. That's a performance, and performing is exhausting.
Sign 7. They play the victim in every story. In every conflict they've ever had, they were wronged. Every relationship that ended, the other person was the problem. Every job, every friendship, every falling out, always someone else's fault, always their suffering, always their wound. There's never accountability, never reflection, just an endless loop of being wronged by the world. And if you listen long enough, you become the next chapter in that story.
Sign 8. You feel worse about yourself after time with them. This is the one that matters most. After you've spent time with them, you feel smaller, less confident, more uncertain about yourself. not because of one big thing they said, because of 100 small ones. A comment here, a look there, a subtle comparison, a joke with an edge. Over time, it accumulates, and the version of you that exists around them is quieter, smaller, and less alive than the one that exists without them.
Here's what's important to understand. Energy vampires usually aren't calculating. Most of them are operating from unhealed wounds, from childhoods where love was conditional, where attention had to be earned through drama, where emotional manipulation was the only language available. Understanding this doesn't mean excusing it, but it changes how you respond. You're not dealing with a villain. You're dealing with an unhealed person whose patterns are hurting you.
The real cost of energy vampires isn't the individual conversations. It's what happens over months and years. You start pulling back from life. You have less to give the people who actually deserve it. You stop trusting your own perceptions because you've been gaslit so consistently. You forget what it feels like to leave an interaction feeling full instead of empty. That's the damage. Quiet, cumulative, and very real.
You don't have to cut everyone off, but you do have to get honest. Start by naming what you see, not to them, to yourself. Notice the pattern without explaining it away. Then begin to create distance, not dramatically, not with a confrontation, just quietly, deliberately, protecting your energy like the finite resource it is. And start spending more time with people who leave you feeling more alive, not less.
Some of these people can change. With therapy, with awareness, with genuine desire to do the work. That's one of the most important things you'll ever do for yourself.
Before you close this video, one honest question. Is there someone specific who came to mind while you were watching? Not a vague feeling, a specific person. If yes, that recognition matters. Don't push it away. Sit with it for a moment, because awareness is always the first step.
8 signs. Every conversation rotates back to them. Drama follows them everywhere. Guilt instead of honest asking. Your emotions become your responsibility and theirs. Your wins go uncelebrated. You edit yourself to survive the interaction. They're always the victim, and you leave feeling smaller than when you arrived.
If any of these signs hit close to home, drop a number in the comments. Just a number. The one that resonated most. You don't have to explain. You don't have to share more than you want to. Just a number. And if this video helped you see something more clearly, share it with someone who might need it too.
Recognizing this is hard, especially when the person is someone you care about. But you deserve relationships that leave you feeling seen, energized, and whole. Not relationships that leave you constantly recovering. Take care of your energy. It's the most valuable thing you have. What if you've been telling yourself you're over it, but you're not? What if the relationship ended months ago, maybe even years ago, and something in you is still there, still waiting, still holding on? Today, we're talking about 6 signs that you haven't actually moved on from your breakup. And the most important thing I want you to know before we begin: not moving on doesn't mean you're weak. It means you loved something real. And real things take time. Here's what makes not moving on so difficult to recognize. It doesn't always look like crying. It doesn't always look like checking their Instagram at 2 a.m. Sometimes it looks like being completely fine. Sometimes it looks like someone who has rebuilt their whole life. New job, new friends, new routines. And yet there's a room inside them they haven't opened. A door they walk past every day and never open. Today, we're going to open it together.
Before we begin, moving on is not a linear process. It's not something that happens at the 6-month mark or the 1-year mark. It doesn't happen because you started dating someone new or because you deleted their number. Moving on happens in the quiet interior, in the relationship you have with the memory, with the loss, with who you were in that relationship. And it takes exactly as long as it takes.
Sign number 1. You compare every new person to them. Not consciously, or maybe very consciously, but every date, every potential connection, every person who shows interest gets measured against one invisible standard. Does this person make me feel the way they made me feel? Are they as funny, as understanding, as present? And no one ever quite measures up, because you're not comparing real people. You're comparing someone real against a memory. And memories are edited. They don't include the hard parts. Sign number 2. You still narrate your life to them. Something good happens. Your first instinct is to want to tell them. Something difficult happens. You imagine what they would say. You still have an ongoing conversation with them in your mind. You're still writing letters to someone who is no longer reading. This internal narrator, the one that still speaks to them, is one of the most telling signs that someone still occupies the center of your inner world, even when they've left your outer one.
Sign number 3. You've idealized who they were and what you had. The relationship you remember is not quite the relationship that existed. The hard moments have faded. The incompatibilities have softened. What remains is a golden version, the best of them, the best of you, the best of what it was. And that golden version is impossible to grieve properly, because you're not grieving the real relationship. You're grieving a dream. And dreams don't let you go the same way reality does.
Sign number 4. You're still angry or completely numb. Anger and numbness are 2 sides of the same unprocessed grief. If you find yourself still cycling through rage, rehearsing arguments, imagining confrontations, replaying moments of injustice, that energy is grief wearing armor. And if you've gone completely numb, if you can talk about them with no feeling at all, as if describing a stranger, that's not healing, that's protection. Real moving on lives somewhere between still feeling something and being destroyed by it.
Sign number 5. Your identity is still built around the relationship. Who were you in it? The person who was loved by them, the person who understood them, the person who had this particular love. And who are you now? If the answer feels genuinely unclear, if you're still defining yourself by what you had and lost, you haven't yet built the self that exists beyond it. The relationship became part of your identity architecture, and dismantling that takes conscious, deliberate work.
Sign number 6. You're still waiting for something: closure, an apology, a reason, a return. There's a part of you that is not yet complete with what happened, that is still waiting for the conversation that would make it make sense, waiting for them to understand what they did, waiting for them to come back, waiting for something that would allow you to finally put it down. Here's what I need to tell you about that waiting. The closure you're waiting for is not coming from them. It was never theirs to give. It lives inside you, and it becomes available the moment you stop waiting and start giving it to yourself. Why is moving on so hard? Because grief over a relationship is not just grief over a person. It's grief over a future you had built in your imagination, the life you thought you were going to have, the person you thought they were, the version of yourself that existed in that relationship. You are grieving several losses at once, and our culture gives us almost no language or permission for this kind of grief. We're told to move on quickly, to get back out there, to be fine. And so many people learn to perform moving on, while the actual work remains undone. Here's what staying in unprocessed grief actually costs you. It costs you presence. Every new relationship, every new person enters a space that isn't fully available. It costs you self-knowledge, because you're still seeing yourself through the lens of that relationship. It costs you the present moment, because part of you is still in a past that no longer exists. And most invisibly, it costs you the version of yourself that is waiting on the other side of this grief, the you that has integrated the loss and emerged with something new. So what do? First, grieve properly. Give yourself permission to feel what you actually feel, not the edited version, not the performed version. All of it. Second, grieve the real relationship, not the idealized one. Write down what was actually hard, what wasn't working, who you actually were together. Third, find the closure inside yourself. Write the letter you needed to receive. Say the things you needed to say. Give yourself the explanation, even if it's imperfect. Because waiting for them to provide it is waiting for something that may never come. Here's what I want you to know. Moving on is not forgetting. It's not pretending it didn't matter. It's not building a wall around that part of your life. Moving on is integration. It means the relationship becomes part of your story, a real and important chapter, without being the story. It means you can hold the memory with warmth rather than hunger, with gratitude rather than grief. And that shift from hunger to warmth is one of the most profound things a human being can experience. It doesn't erase the love, it completes it.
And before we close, one gentle question. Is it possible that you've been performing moving on rather than actually doing it? That you've built a life around the absence of this relationship without ever walking through the grief of it? There's no judgment in that question. It's one of the most human things there is, to protect yourself from pain by pretending it's already over. But the grief that isn't grieved doesn't disappear. It waits, and it becomes available to heal the moment you turn toward it. The 6 signs. 1. You compare everyone to them. 2. You still narrate your life to them. 3. You've idealized who they were. 4. You're still angry or completely numb. 5. Your identity is still built around the relationship. 6. You're still waiting for something. Which of these 6 resonated most? Drop the number in the comments. No story needed, just the number. And if this video reached you somewhere real, share it quietly
with someone who might need it. Subscribe if you want to keep understanding the deeper psychology of love, loss, and the self, because that's exactly what we do here. Thank you for watching. The grief you've been carrying deserves to be felt, and on the other side of it, you're waiting for yourself. See you in the next one. What if the person you trust most is also the person most carefully controlling you? Not with threats, not with aggression, but with something far more invisible. Today, we're talking about 8 signs that someone is manipulating you, and why the most effective manipulation is the kind you never see coming. Here's what makes manipulation so devastatingly effective. It doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like love. It feels like concern. It feels like someone who just really cares about you. The manipulator doesn't appear as a villain. They appear as the most important person in your life. And that's exactly the design.
Before we begin, manipulation exists on a spectrum. Not every manipulative act comes from a malicious person. Some people manipulate because they were never taught another way to get their needs met. Some do it consciously, some don't. What matters today is not diagnosing anyone. It's recognizing the patterns so that you can protect your own reality.
Sign number 1. They make you feel responsible for their emotions. Whatever they feel, it's somehow connected to what you did or didn't do. Their bad mood is because of something you said. Their anxiety is because of something you forgot. Their happiness depends on your compliance. Over time, you stop making decisions based on what you want and start making them based on what will keep them stable. You become the emotional caretaker of an adult who has made you responsible for their inner weather.
Sign number 2. They reframe your legitimate concerns as attacks. You try to express something that hurt you, and suddenly you're the problem. You're too sensitive. You're starting drama. You're always making things about yourself. This reframe is one of manipulation's most effective tools because it trains you to stop expressing your concerns at all. Eventually, you learn bringing up a problem creates a bigger problem. So you go quiet, and your silence becomes their control.
Sign number 3. They use your vulnerabilities against you. At some point, you trusted them with something real, a fear, an insecurity, a wound from your past. And now, in moments of conflict, those things appear, subtly, as a reminder of your fragility, as evidence that your perception can't be trusted, as pressure on the exact places that already hurt. This is not accidental. It is precise, and it is one of the most intimate betrayals possible, having your trust used as a weapon.
Sign number 4. The goalposts are always moving. You did what they asked, but now the standard has changed. You met the expectation, but now there's a new one. You apologized, but it's never quite enough. This is deliberate instability. When you can never fully succeed, you never fully relax. You remain in a constant state of trying, which keeps you focused on them, working for their approval, unable to ever feel settled or safe.
4 down, 4 to go. And I want to stop here and say something directly. If you're recognizing someone right now, that recognition is important, not as a reason to act immediately, but as information you deserve to have. Keep watching, because signs 5 through 8
explain how the system holds together and why it's so hard to see from inside it.
Sign number 5. They isolate you, gradually, invisibly. It doesn't happen all at once. First, your friends are subtly criticized. Then spending time with them causes friction. Then it's just easier not to. Your family becomes a source of tension. Your independent interests fade. And slowly, without any single dramatic event, the manipulator becomes your primary world. This isolation isn't accidental. A person with fewer outside connections has fewer reality checks, fewer people to say, "This doesn't sound right."
Sign number 6. They alternate between warmth and withdrawal to keep you off balance. When you comply, warmth. When you question, distance. When you're about to leave, sudden closeness. This alternation is not random. It is a conditioning system. Your nervous system learns warmth is available, but only under certain conditions. And so you spend enormous energy trying to stay in the warm zone. The unpredictability keeps you focused, anxious, and attached.
Sign number 7. They rewrite history. The conversation you had didn't happen that way. The thing they said, they never said it. The pattern you've identified, you're imagining it. Over time, your own memory becomes unreliable to you. You begin to doubt your perceptions. You stop trusting your experience. You hand the narration of shared reality to someone who is actively editing it. This is gaslighting, and its most devastating effect is not confusion. It's the erosion of your relationship with your own mind.
Sign number 8. You feel like you're always the one who is wrong. Not sometimes, almost always. Every conflict resolves with you apologizing. Every misunderstanding ends with you as the source of the problem. Every difficulty is ultimately traced back to something in you, your sensitivity, your past, your unreasonableness. When one person is always wrong in a relationship, that's not honesty, that's a system, and you are being managed by it.
Why does manipulation work? Because it targets the most human things in us: our desire to be loved, our fear of conflict, our need to believe in the people we've chosen. Manipulation doesn't succeed because victims are stupid or weak. It succeeds because manipulators are skilled at identifying and using the exact mechanisms that make us human. Understanding this is not an excuse for the manipulator. It is liberation for the person who has been asking, "Why didn't I see it?"
Here's what prolonged manipulation actually does to you. It makes you distrust yourself. Your instincts feel unreliable. Your perceptions feel suspect. Your needs feel excessive. You become smaller, more careful, more apologetic. You lose your sense of what is normal. And most invisibly, you begin to believe that the problem lives inside you. That if you could just be different enough, more understanding, less sensitive, more patient, the relationship would work. It won't, because the problem is not in you.
So what do you do? First, document your reality. Write down conversations, reactions, patterns as they happen. Manipulation works in part because memory fades and self-doubt replaces it. Second, rebuild your external connections. Talk to people outside the relationship. Reality check your experience. Third, trust the pattern, not the explanation. Manipulators are often extraordinarily skilled explainers. The individual explanation may be convincing. The pattern is what reveals the truth.
Here's what I need you to know. Recognizing manipulation is not the end of the relationship. It is the beginning of clarity. Some relationships can shift when manipulation is named and addressed. Many cannot. But what changes in either case is this: you stop being managed without your knowledge. You become a conscious participant in your own life again. And that, the return of your own perception, is one of the most profound recoveries a person can experience.
The 8 signs. 1. You're responsible for their emotions. 2. Your concerns become attacks. 3. Your vulnerabilities are used against you. 4. Goalposts always moving. 5. Gradual, invisible isolation. 6. Warmth and withdrawal alternating. 7. History is rewritten. 8. You're always the one who is wrong.
Which of these 8 did you recognize? Drop the number in the comments. And if this video helped something become clearer, share it with someone who might need it. Subscribe if you want to keep understanding the hidden psychology of relationships. Thank you for watching. Your perception was never broken. It was being managed. See you in the next one.
You've been called lazy. Maybe not out loud, but you felt it. In the way someone sighs when you miss a deadline. In the quiet voice inside your own head that says, "Why can't you just try harder?" And the exhausting part? You are trying. You've always been trying. What if the problem was never effort? What if there's something else going on? Something with a name, an explanation, and a way forward.
We're walking through 6 signs that what looks like laziness on the outside is your brain working differently on the inside. Some of these will feel uncomfortably familiar. Stick around through all 6, especially number 4. That one surprises almost everyone.
Here's what most people get wrong about ADHD. It's not about attention. People with ADHD can focus intensely for hours when something genuinely captures them. The real issue is regulation, the brain's ability to choose where attention goes, to start things, to manage time and emotion the way the world expects. And because none of that is visible, it looks like someone who just doesn't care enough. But caring has nothing to do with it.
Sign 1. You can't start tasks, even ones you want to do. You sit down to begin something you genuinely care about. You open it, close it, check your phone, tell yourself 5 more minutes. An hour passes. This isn't procrastination from laziness. It's task initiation failure. The brain's dopamine system doesn't fire on command. Neurotypical brains start tasks from intention. ADHD brains need interest, urgency, challenge, or novelty. Without one of those 4, the system stalls, no matter how much you want to begin.
Sign 2. Your sense of time is genuinely broken. For most people, time is a continuous ribbon they can feel passing. For ADHD brains, time collapses into 2 categories: now and not now. A deadline 3 weeks away disappears from awareness entirely until it's tomorrow. 15 minutes ago felt like 15 minutes ago, right up until you were already late. Researchers call this time blindness, and it's a core feature of ADHD, not irresponsibility.
a brain that genuinely cannot feel time the way the world expects.
Sign 3. Emotions hit harder and last longer than they should. A small criticism that someone else shakes off in 30 seconds can wreck your entire day. Not because you're dramatic, because your brain's emotional regulation system runs a different intensity dial. This is rejection sensitivity, a near physical pain response to perceived disapproval or disappointment. You've probably been told your whole life you're too sensitive, but you're not overreacting. Your nervous system is responding exactly as it's wired to. No one just told you that until now.
3 signs down, 3 to go. Sign number 4 explains something about ADHD and motivation that almost nobody talks about, and it's the one that makes people finally stop blaming themselves. Stay with me.
Sign 4. You can hyperfocus for hours, which proves you're not lazy. You've been told, if you had ADHD, how could you spend 6 straight hours completely absorbed in something? This is hyperfocus, and it's not a contradiction of ADHD. It's one of its defining features. When the right combination of interest and novelty clicks, the dopamine system locks in completely. Hours vanish. You produce extraordinary work, and then the access disappears. You can't aim it on demand. It goes where it goes. This is why just focus is so painful to hear. You know what focus feels like. You just can't choose when it arrives.
Sign 5. Your life runs on controlled chaos. 17 open tabs, 3 half-finished projects, a note that says important with no further context, perfect memory of a random 2009 fact, and zero memory of yesterday's conversation. ADHD affects working memory, not whether information is there, but whether you can reliably retrieve it. The visible chaos is the result of someone working incredibly hard to manage a system that doesn't organize naturally. The mess isn't laziness, it's evidence of the fight happening every single day.
Sign 6. You've built your life around avoiding the feeling of failure. After years of being called lazy and irresponsible, you develop sophisticated avoidance, not of work, but of the feeling of failing again. You say yes to things you'll struggle with because no feels like defeat. You downplay ambitions before anyone can point out you didn't follow through. You make yourself small to reduce the opportunities to disappoint. You called it being realistic, but underneath was a person who wanted more and kept hitting a wall no one else could see.
ADHD is neurodevelopmental. It's not something that happened to you. It's how your brain was built. The dopamine system, the prefrontal cortex, emotional regulation, all measurably different. This shows up in brain scans. It responds to specific interventions. It is not a character flaw. And for adults who were never diagnosed as kids, especially women, especially people who compensated well enough to pass, late diagnosis doesn't fix the past, but it changes the story you tell about it. Every failure you blamed yourself for looks different when you finally understand why.
If you recognized yourself in these signs, the grief that comes with that is real, because it means years of struggle had a reason and you didn't know. That grief is allowed. Don't skip past it. But on the other side, is something people describe as the first real breath in years. Because once you know what you're actually dealing with, you can stop fighting the wrong battle.
Get evaluated by someone who understands adult ADHD, because it looks very different from the hyperactive kid stereotype. A diagnosis gives you access to real support and, just as importantly, language. Learn about your specific brain. Read Driven to Distraction, or ADHD 2.0. Build external structure, timers, reminders, accountability partners. These aren't crutches, they're tools. Use them without apology. And find community. Millions of adults discovered this late and rebuilt from here. You don't have to figure it out alone.
These signs aren't a diagnosis. ADHD overlaps with anxiety, depression, and trauma in ways that require a professional to untangle. Don't dismiss yourself, but don't self-diagnose with certainty either. If this resonated, that resonance is worth taking seriously. And if you do get diagnosed at 35, 50, or 60, you're not behind. You're exactly on time for the life you can build from here. Think about the moments you worked harder than anyone around you and still fell short. Not because the effort wasn't there, but because it wasn't visible in the ways that got counted. What would it mean to stop measuring yourself by a standard never designed for how your brain works? You don't need an answer right now. Just let the questions stay.
6 signs your laziness might actually be ADHD. You can't start tasks even when you want to. Your sense of time is genuinely distorted. Emotions hit harder and stay longer. You hyperfocus intensely but can't direct it. Your world runs on controlled chaos, and you've built your life around avoiding failure. None of these are personality flaws. All of them are neurological realities millions of people live with, many without ever knowing why.
Which sign hit closest to home for you? Have you been diagnosed as an adult, or are you still figuring it out? Tell me in the comments. Share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe if you want to keep going deeper on exactly this kind of thing.
Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is learn the language for what you've always felt but couldn't name. Take care of yourself. See you in the next one.